I always tell people this isn't normal cancer histories. This isn't normal health histories. It's not.
Tina Cordova's family lived in Tularosa, around 40 miles from where the atomic bomb was detonated in 1945. Her father was 4 years old.
My dad started with a cancer at the base of his tongue. He didn't smoke, didn't drink, didn't use chewing tobacco, had no viruses. My dad was fastidious about himself. He got a cancer very similar to the one that Robert Oppenheimer had, but my dad didn't chain smoke and never drank a martini.
You yourself have been battling cancer.
I had thyroid cancer. The really horrific thing in my family is we always say we don't ask, if we're gonna get cancer, we ask when it's gonna be our turn.
In 2005, Cordova helped co-found the Tularosa Basin Downwinders Consortium.
About 2 years into our work, we found out about the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act.
The government has listed 19 different cancers that can be associated with high-dose exposure to radiation or radiogenic. Since 1990, the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, or RECA, has been paying out lump sums of money to people who've gotten radiogenic cancer and can tie it to nuclear testing. The bill covers people who worked in uranium mines before 1971, when the U.S. government stopped being the major purchaser of uranium. It also covers residents of so-called downwinder communities in Nevada, Utah, and Arizona. But it doesn't include New Mexico.
Imagine our shock when we found out that there had been this fund set up. We were the first people exposed to radiation any place in the world as a result of an atomic bomb. And we're left out.
Is that the obstacle, money?
That's the obstacle that they place in front of us, money. They counted on us to be uneducated, unsophisticated, and unable to stand up for ourselves. But we're not those people anymore. We know what we know. The fund has paid out $2.5 billion over 33 years. Our government spent trillions of dollars developing and testing nuclear devices in the American West. And now they want to count pennies.
For the last few years, the group has been collecting health surveys from people in the area.
We lived 18 miles from where the nuclear test was. My father, my mother both died of cancer. All our cows, their backs turned white.
Census data shows that around 500,000 people lived within a 150-mile radius of the Trinity test site. It's impossible to know just how many of them were affected. Up in the mountains above Tularosa is the Mescalero Apache Reservation. That's where Waddell Canseo grew up.
There are other Mescalero Apache tribal members that have had cancer that is unexplainable. But I think partly because of the culture, the mores of the tribe, it's not looked into like it should be.
Beloved language preservationist dies.
There were 3 distinct dialects of Apache, and my father was working at trying to preserve those dialects.
When your father passed away from cancer, did you have any idea where it came from?
No.
But then your mother did also.
It was devastating. My dad was my idol. He was very quiet, very soft-spoken man, but he would stand his ground. He would mean business. And I firmly believed he was going to walk out.
Both your parents were children during the time of the Trinity test.
Yes. I think everything that was happening during that time was blown in this direction, Alamogordo, Tularosa, and then up towards Mescalero. I was in the U.S. Army, and I loved every minute of it. And I've tried to have faith in our government, anything that they do. But it is disheartening when you learn of something like this.
What makes us different from the Nevada test site downwinders? We're primarily Hispanic and Native American, and they are not.
Bernice Gutierrez has been working with Tina Cordova and the consortium for years. She says she believes they were left out initially because of environmental racism.
The Nevada test site downwinders were given compensation based on assumption. It was assumed that they were exposed, and that's why they got compensation. They've asked us to prove it, that how do we know it was true, but there's no way on God's earth that we can explain all the cancers we've had any other way.
Without government assistance, residents like Gutierrez have been left to do the digging.
You've done a lot of research on infant mortality during that time. What have you found?
I got online and I checked every death certificate for every county that existed in 1945 in New Mexico. Many, many, many babies died. And a lot of the deaths could be related to the atmosphere, the radiation exposure, marasmus, enteritis, colitis, congenital deformities. Those are things that could very easily be related.
The 1945 uptick in deaths shows up clearly on this 1965 CDC report on infant mortality. But with current information, it's impossible to clearly link it to radiation exposure. Gutierrez herself was among those potentially exposed babies.
I was 8 days old.
8 days old.
8 days old. There was no reason to suspect that the government was lying to us. They said it was an ammunition dump explosion, and that's what came out in the newspaper. But it wasn't until later, when my family started getting cancer, that I started wondering about that.
Altogether, 41 members of her family across 5 generations have gotten the disease.
The government never came back to our knowledge and did any water testing or soil testing, nothing. And now people on their own are coming and doing these things and finding out 78 years later what should have been done then.
This summer, though, it seemed like the Downwinders were finally gaining some momentum. In July 2023, the Senate passed an expansion of RECA as an amendment to the defense spending bill, which would cover New Mexico's Downwinders. But it still hasn't been proposed in the House. So this fall, Gutierrez, along with Cordova and other members of the consortium, traveled to Washington, D.C. to advocate for themselves.
So I'm not an elected official, but the people of New Mexico have joined with me and sent me here to be a voice for them. It will deliver $150,000 in one-time payment of restitution. We've lived in such stark poverty for so long dealing with this issue.
Right.
And so for us, we'll never be made whole. This can never be remedied.
You can't replace your loved ones.
You can't replace your loved ones. I've been doing this work for 18 years. Do you know how many times I've been up and then down? But I'm telling you right now, there's no doubt in my mind. I've invested this much time. There's no going back. And all of us feel that way. I will do this work until the day we find success or until the day they put me in the ground.
What would justice look like for you?
We just need for them to finally give us our due. You know, Martin Luther King once said, "Justice delayed is justice denied." And I feel that that's what has been done to us. It's been denied.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.